I'm Maria Hall Brown. Today on LA Currents, after the LA wildfires, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was tasked with the massive undertaking of debris removal. Colonel Brian Sawser gives me an insight into how the Corps makes that mission a reality. Later, as the LA Marathon celebrates its 40th year, I hear from the man behind the scenes who manages this prestigious event. But first, Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure, Randall Winston, oversees transportation, public rights-of-way, and street services. He speaks to Ann Police about the day-to-day challenges of keeping LA operating as a world-class city.
Joining us today, we welcome Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure for the City of Los Angeles, Randall Winston. We're so glad to have you on with us, Randall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Very, very glad to be here.
Yeah, glad you could join us. As Deputy Mayor, let's just dig right in.
Yep.
What departments are you responsible for?
Great question. So Deputy Mayor of Infrastructure, in this administration, I oversee the Board of Public Works, which includes 5 bureaus: the Bureau of Sanitation, Bureau of Engineering, Bureau of Street Services, Bureau of Contract Administration, and the Bureau of Street Lighting, as well as our Department of Transportation, and then the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, and really supporting the mayor and her 3 appointees to that body.
Wow, that's a lot of departments and bureaus to be over.
It's a lot. So think transportation and everything in the public right of way.
Okay.
And a lot of the services and kind of everyday challenges that Angelinos experience. Everything from trash collection to, you've got a light that's out on your street that needs to be repaired, or trees that need to be trimmed. It's sort of the things that people can touch and feel on a day-to-day basis.
Within all those departments, there is a through line, which is to keep the City of Los Angeles running.
Yes.
On the daily, what are some of the challenges that you meet being over all of the infrastructure of Los Angeles?
Very good question. And when we started this administration, when I came into my role now just over 2 years ago, we knew we were facing some headwinds. A lot of incredible policies on the books of impacting our right-of-way. Vision Zero, Mobility 2035, Complete Streets, measures really from the past 10 years to improve our streets and their safety and quality of life. Challenge, I think, was delivery of a lot of those services. Projects not being delivered on time, not being delivered on budget, certainly downtown, but throughout the city. We are, or really have been, one of the only major cities in the nation that doesn't have a long-term capital infrastructure plan. So looking at how we budget for our capital improvements and our work in the public right-of-way beyond just a single-year budget process to multiple years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I think the mayor feels strongly that only through a long-term budgeting process will we be able to get through our backlogs in service. Our backlogs for sidewalk repairs, for tree trimming, for repairing our street lights, again, everything in our public right-of-way. The city had already began undertaking a revamp of our 311 system. This is the system that folks can use to request everything from a trash pickup to reporting illegal dumping to removing graffiti, you name it. That system was outdated by about a decade, and so revamping that system, but alongside it, completely changing how we do customer service. The mayor charged the city with developing a first-of-its-kind customer service policy. So how our city employees in the field, on the phones, interacted with the public, with Angelinos, with an eye towards better service. So that's on the service side. And we just now launched actually a new 311 platform. You can download it on your phone today. Very excited about that.
The Olympics, the Paralympics, the FIFA World Cup, all these huge events that are going to be in Los Angeles.
Oh, yes.
You took a trip to Paris to check out how they did it.
It did.
What are some of the big takeaways that you came home and said, okay, this is either what they did right or we could improve on that, but
Yes.
we definitely needed to do that? Was there something that stood out for the city of Los Angeles?
Absolutely, I would say many things. Maybe first of all, I have to express now my appreciation, our appreciation, and what feel like colleagues in the city of Paris. Not only did we go and sort of visit the venues and some of the events, but they and the mayor of Paris made it a point to reach out to us beforehand, create kind of workshops where we were able to deep dive in Paris on the mechanics of how they built their events, how they handled or pieced together their venue approaches, their security, other components, really all components of putting on the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And at the same time, sharing lessons learned. Candidly, what worked, what didn't work, with an eye towards how we in Los Angeles can do it better.
What is the state of public transportation currently here in Los Angeles? I know we're talking a lot about, oh, we've got all these big events that are coming up, but there's also people who very literally have to use the public transportation on the daily to get to and from their job, school, whatever. It's very important, even though the city of Los Angeles was not built around the public transportation grid. Now we're very slowly and meticulously trying to become a public transportation city. How is the infrastructure right now? What sort of things are you in your mind going, this is the next big thing for our public transportation infrastructure that's really going to make the city work?
That's a great question. And I think, this administration, I'll say, myself, and obviously the mayor, fortunate to walk into what has been really a renaissance in transportation, public transit, multimodal ways of thinking about LA over the past 10 years. The passage of Measure M, new ways to fund these projects and investments, securing the games, the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And then, most recently, the passage of Measure HLA, really kind of putting the city to the task of improving our bicycle, pedestrian, and other networks, again, aimed at making our streets more walkable and livable. We are undertaking through Metro really an unprecedented capital endeavor, building out our city's rail, priority bus lanes, our mobility hubs that will again accrue to the Olympics. I would add to that, again, earlier on in the mayor's administration, a new street furniture program. So looking at how we can provide the shade in communities that need that shade most and rely on our bus system. I'm very, very happy to share that we've passed a milestone this year of installing 100 new bus shelters, and not based on ad revenue as has been done in the past, but based on equity, based upon where those shelters are needed most. And we're going to continue to do that through the games and beyond. And so there is a lot happening to, I think, contribute to getting folks out of their single passenger vehicles, using our rail, our buses, biking, walking, and I think that's very exciting.
Let's talk a little bit about the fire recovery effort. Something like this, fire recovery, it takes a village. You're working with state, federal, as well as city groups. How's that going?
It takes a village, it takes a metropolis, right? to extend that metaphor even further. Very, I think, excited, and I know the mayor and all partners are proud of the fact that we are undertaking the fastest recovery in modern California history, ahead of schedule on more or less, I think, every front, which is getting them on track to remove debris before the end of the summer. Again, record-breaking time. In tandem with that, the mayor was out in the Palisades to celebrate breaking ground on a couple of properties that have already secured permits and are rebuilding their homes right now. She was at the rec center, which we know is the cultural heart, you might say, of the Palisades community, standing hand in hand with Steadfast LA and the Lakers to put forth a vision for rebuilding and really reimagining the rec center. And so on really every front, the work is moving swiftly.
Well, Randall, thank you so much for joining us today. So glad to have you on. Do you have a couple websites you'd like to share with folks at home?
I do, and thank you again. So first, the mayor's website, where you can learn more all about the mayor's activities, press releases, what we're up to across the city. That's mayor.lacity.gov. And then second, the recovery. And that is recovery.lacity.gov.
Clearing wildfire debris is a year-long operation for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I sat down with Colonel Brian Sawser to learn more about the Army's approach to their missions and the process of clearing a path forward for the Pacific Palisades. The devastating wildfires in Los Angeles on January 7th were incomparable in so many ways. It took over 3 weeks to actually get them fully contained. In the Palisades area, over 6,800 properties were damaged, and now the recovery process is in process. And we're delighted to be joined today by someone who knows that recovery process intimately. I'm delighted to be joined by Colonel Brian Sawser from the Army Corps of Engineers. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So just really basically, the Army Corps of Engineers, what is its role? What does it do?
So the Army Corps of Engineers, you can trace back to the origins of our nation. And it's really unique for any Army to have this component of your active duty force that also has a crucial role in the infrastructure of the nation. And we really exist to solve the nation's engineering challenges. So you can look at the Hoover Dam, you can look at the Mississippi River, you can look at the Washington Monument. Those are all projects by the Corps of Engineers. Not only do we have that infrastructure role for the nation, we also have environmental stewardship to protect the waterways, but we also have a role in a natural disaster, a declared emergency by the President. In a time of emergency, we are able to really harness the expertise that we need for that type of disaster and deploy quickly to that disaster and respond. And so that's the role of the Corps of Engineers. We do have a daytime mission that's always continuous, building out the infrastructure of the nation. But in times of emergency, we can deploy forward and come to places like Southern California for a disaster response like this.
When you came to, we're going to focus today on the Palisades fire, when you came and you saw that for the first time, what was your immediate impression when you looked up on those hillsides and you saw what had happened?
Complete devastation. And I think as a citizen, seeing my fellow citizens in pain and suffering and seeing that they had lost everything, that certainly struck a different chord. So from the Corps' perspective, we take this mission incredibly personal. There's a district headquarters here in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles District of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Our employees that work for that district, several of the employees lost their homes. More employees were displaced from both of these fires, Palisades and Eaton fires. So it was not only a national response for us, it was also personal.
What are the things that you were doing when you're on property?
So on a property, when we come up upon a property, there's a lot of steps that people don't see. We do a hazardous site assessment first. We have to understand the property from an engineering perspective, from an access perspective. So we have heavy machinery that we have to bring into the property. Where are we going to put that heavy machinery? How are we going to get it to the property? How are we going to safely get it off the property? Is there any unique features of this property? Are there retaining walls? Are there swimming pools? Is there a jacuzzi? Is there a buried septic tank? All that has to be diagrammed out. There's a load of pictures that are taken ahead of time. And then we're going to go through an asbestos process where we bring in a certified asbestos consultant that comes in and surveys the property, and then we have to do an abatement of just the asbestos materials on that property first. We're going to bring in an arborist that looks at all the associated trees on the property. They're deemed as hazardous. We'll cut them down and we'll put them into the green waste stream. You do also have concrete and metals that we wash on site as we collect them from a house. So in the Palisades fire area, as an example, Temescal Canyon Road, the city of Los Angeles was incredibly gracious. Early in this process, we identified that as just a vital stretch of an artery coming right out of the Palisades, by which we have set up now, which is essentially a recycling facility there, where we consolidate both concretes and metals. So we have a concrete crushing plant there. We have a metal baler there. So we're washing both of those materials. We crush the concrete, we bale the metal, and then we're able to keep a lot of trucks off the road because that decreases the amount of volume per truck. And then both the crushed aggregate, or the rock, the concrete, is now an aggregate that you can use in the construction supply system here in Southern California. It goes right back into the supply system. Same thing with the metals. It goes to a metal recycling facility. There's several of them here in the Los Angeles area that we utilize. And so That methodology that I just described and that process has been refined really over the last 20 years, refined over several wildfires here in California, in Hawaii, on the island of Maui. And it's really coming from a couple decades of lessons learned on how to best collect this material, transport the material, and then ultimately dispose the material in accordance with California regulations. So that's how it is done.
Do you have a deadline? How long are you going to be here?
So the president gave us a deadline of January of 26, which is again unprecedented for this kind of this expansive of a disaster in terms of the response rate and then the totality of our response. It's certainly the fastest one that we're going to experience in the Corps of Engineers. We will be here for 2025, and we'll be complete by January 26, but it won't look like the problem is still there largely by summertime. Start your building permits now. Start with your architectural designs now. Start selecting your builders now if you so choose. And you can simultaneously, as we're working debris removal, start the process towards the rebuild. So I have no doubt that there's going to be construction in the Palisades or in Malibu while we're still removing debris.
Are there properties that are not eligible for your Corps to come in and deal with?
Yeah, so I would encourage folks that if you had destroyed structures on your property, absolutely submit an ROE to the county, to LA County Public Works. The eligibility determination is an evolving definition. As it stands now, you need to have a destroyed structure, private property. So this is the private property debris removal program. So it's private property that we are performing this mission on. In some cases, schools, we've performed those. The library in Pacific Palisades we're going to do here very, very shortly. So additional properties can be added later at the discretion between the state of California and FEMA and given to the Corps for execution. But for right now, it's just private property, destroyed structures.
You've been doing this for decades. What did this particular project teach you? What have you learned? Because has this been work as usual, or has this been unorthodox enough that you have taken lessons from this that you will use in the remainder of your work across the world?
That's an excellent question. I think for me personally, I've spent a lot of time overseas, and many times the Army, when we're overseas, we certainly always work with partners, but things tend to be a little bit easier because you don't necessarily need to build consensus for the different problem sets that we have overseas. We can drive a solution and maybe not have to rely so much on partnerships. When you come to a community in the United States, for the most part, I'm not from Southern California. Most of our employees are not from Southern California that are working here. So we are strangers, we are guests of Southern California. So if you don't make those partnerships, if you don't understand how the community works and build those strong relationships, you absolutely cannot accomplish this mission. And I will say, and I could go through a litany of different organizations, governmental agencies here in Southern California, but they have been, without an exception, very accommodating and very understanding of the governor's order to expedite everything, and they've been fantastic. That's at the local level, state level, and certainly our federal partners that are involved in this as well. And I think that the partnership pieces of this is key. And I will say, and that's why coming on shows like this is critically important for us, the most important partner is the affected communities. I mean, it really is. We cannot perform our mission without communicating with those homeowners that lost their homes in those communities, because it's those informal leaders and homeowners associations and churches that have their members in the community. We reach them, we're able to communicate to them, answer their questions directly, get out there in the field. I think that's what moves us along.
This has been literally fascinating, incredibly informative, and I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Colonel Sawser, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
While running a marathon takes singular focus, community is a major contributor to marathon success. Chief Operating Officer for the LA Marathon, Murphy Reinschreiber, tells me about the event organization, improved race technology, and how the marathon gives back to the city. Inspired by the Summer Olympics of 1984 here in Los Angeles, the LA Marathon has been a remarkable part of LA for over 40 years. Today I'm delighted to be joined by the Chief Operating Officer of the LA Marathon, Murphy Reinschreiber. So nice to have you here.
It's great to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
How did it go this year?
Yeah, so it was great this year. The marathon, not only the Los Angeles Marathon, but marathons by and large are huge community events that have a way of bringing communities together. And this year with the wildfires and everything that has happened here in LA, I guess I can say the timing of the marathon really couldn't have been better, because I think the community was ready to come together and to engage in something very positive. And that was felt all along our race course. The crowds were bigger than we've ever had before. The number of runners that we had was as big as we've ever had. So by every metric, the race was fantastic this year.
How is the route determined?
Over the years, the routes had a number of evolutions.
Yes.
In its early year, it was a downtown course.
Right.
And then one of the improvements that was made is to change the route to a course that we called Stadium to the Sea. It started at Dodger Stadium and finished in Santa Monica. That course was very well received. The next course change that we made was 2021. The course was changed from Stadium to the Stars, where it now finishes at Avenue of the Stars and Santa Monica Boulevard in Century City. It is a tour of LA like no other. There's no stoplights, nothing slowing you down. You go straight from Dodger Stadium out to Century City. We think it has a lot of things that we weren't able to offer in Santa Monica. Our crowd support at the finish line is incredible, way beyond anything the race has ever received in the past. And that's all part of the experience. When you get to the finish line, you want a live, vibrant, exciting finish line, because you've accomplished something really great. I mean, keep in mind that only 1% of the population ever runs a marathon.
Really?
So it is a significant accomplishment.
How do you manage the issue of people with altered abilities that make them either in a wheelchair or some other device that they need to be able to do this? What's their event?
Okay, so since 1986, we've run a wheelchair division in the marathon. We were one of the pioneers of wheelchair racing in the country. And so we've had our wheelchair division, which is really, it's a pro race, and there's prize money available. And then we have a exhibition division, which is what we call hand cranks. It's a three-wheeled wheelchair, but the way it's propelled is with your arms, and there's a gear.
Okay.
It's a little bit more like a bicycle.
Right.
There's quite a bit of participation in that division.
So what's the average run time for the 26.2?
The height of our bell curve is a little after, around 5 hours or a little after, depending on the year and the weather.
Okay.
So our fastest runner this year was 2:07, 2 hours 7 minutes. And we have runners coming in as late as 7 hours or longer.
Wow. And it is a precursor to if you wanted to do the Boston.
You can qualify for the Boston Marathon at the Los Angeles Marathon, yes.
How has it improved? How has it changed? How is it altered? What is it? How has the actual functioning of a marathon been adapted to times, places, and people?
A marathon really hasn't changed in some respects.
Okay, it's still 26.2 miles.
It's still 26.2 miles, and that is the be all and end all of a marathon, 26.2 miles. So in that respect, it doesn't change. Obviously the participation in the marathons have grown significantly. There are now races with over 50,000 runners. That is an amazing organizational event to be able to safely move that many runners from start line to finish line. So the sports had to adapt to that, and technology has helped us. We have chip timing now, so that every runner carries a timing chip that when they cross mats, their time is recorded.
And they're not sneaking down an alley somewhere.
They're not sneaking down an alley somewhere. And if it takes us about 30 some minutes to get all our starters across the start line. Well, it doesn't really matter when you cross the start line, because we're starting your time when you cross the start line, not necessarily when the gun goes off for the pro men to start running. And so you get an accurate time of what you did over the course, regardless of whether you start with the gun or 30 minutes later. That's allowed larger participation. And then the sports just become a lot more sophisticated in terms of safety measures, in terms of nutrition that goes out on the race course. and how traffic flows are handled. I mean, we need to be as concerned with parking and spectator management as we do athlete management, because that's all part of conducting a major city large event.
How much does the LA Marathon mean to the city of Los Angeles in terms of funding, but also in terms of what it gives to organizations that partner?
That's at the end of the day, that can be seen as the main purpose of the marathon, is that give back to the community. When the marathon gives back in a number of ways. We have a nonprofit partnership program where this year we had 105 other nonprofits participate to raise badly needed funding for their own crucial causes. And we provide that platform for them to field teams that run the marathon and raise those funds. And we've raised over $80 million for other nonprofits through that program.
Wow.
Over the years that McCourt has been involved.
Wow.
So that's a program that's near and dear to everyone's hearts, and is crucial to what the marathon does. But in addition to that, we support youth health and wellness causes in Los Angeles. We provide significant support to Students Run LA, which is a separate 501c3 to us, a nonprofit. What Students Run LA does is each year they have a program that starts in September, and there are students from 180 plus local schools that participate in this program. The program essentially teaches them self-reliance and confidence through running. And many of these students have never run before. They start off by training for a 5K and then build up through the year from September to March to run the Los Angeles Marathon. And there are about 3,000 Students Run LA kids that run the marathon every year. Almost 99% of those kids get to the finish line.
Oh my heavens.
And about the same number graduate from high school, and about the same number go on to college, with most of those kids being first in their families to go to college. So it is an incredible program that's been going on for 34 years now of the marathon. And it's a program that we're really proud of and we work very closely with. Our focus here in Los Angeles is more on community and more on give back and more on fundraising than it is on cutting edge world-class running. We have world-class fields here, but a number of the other races are really concerned with world records and things like that aren't as important to us here.
If you've not run a marathon, what do you suggest someone do in order to prepare?
First, make the commitment.
Yes.
That's the first step, and then find support. There are all these running clubs all over the city that are focused on various groups of people. Moms that recently gave birth that are running, to different community groups. There's a running group for everybody nowadays. And go find a group that you're comfortable with. It could be just down the street from where you live, or you may have to get in your car and go. But once you fall into that running community, you'll find the support that you need to get yourself across the finish line.
If someone wanted to participate in the LA Marathon, first of all, I imagine sign up early. But nonetheless, what's the best way for people to find out?
There's two ways to find us: is lamarathon.com or mccourtfoundation.org.
Okay. Well, congratulations on absolutely everything. Best of luck in all the next planning and putting it all together for next year, and I'm sure for many, many more years to come.
Goes year round.
Does indeed. Thanks a lot, Murphy.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.